अस्सलाम वालेकुम नाजरीन, लंदन लिविंग विद रिजवान रशीद आपकी खिदमत में हाजिर है। मेरा ये प्रोग्राम ऐसा कोई पॉलिटिकल तो है नहीं, लेकिन इस वक्त इलेक्शन का दौरा है, तो मुझे ये ज़रूरी समझा कि मैं लोगों के पास जाऊं, लोगों से सवालात लूं और उन कैंडिडेट्स के पास जाऊं जो कैंडिडेट्स इस इलेक्शन में हिस्सा ले रहे हैं। और आज मैं हूं लिंजी मैथिसन के साथ। लिंजी मैथिसन का तारुफ ऐसे मैं करवाता हूँ कि लिंजी मैथिसन बचपन से ही इस दौर में हैं। इनकी मदर जो हैं वो भी पॉलिटिकल थी और इनकी मदर ने इनको एक ऐसा प्लेटफॉर्म दिया है जिससे आगे जाके लोगों की हेल्प करना चाहती हैं। तो आइए मिलिए आज लिंजी मैथिसन से। लिंजी, थैंक यू वेरी मच फॉर द शो।
Hi, thank you for having me. This is wonderful.
Thank you very much for accepting my request to come on and wanting to share with the people in the audience what you are bringing in. And I was explaining to people that you actually have a born into political thing. So when they meet, who is Lindsay?
Well, yes, it's absolutely true. I have been political since I was very, very little.
Okay.
My mom ran and for the first time when I was 11, and she won. Yeah. And that changed our lives entirely.
Yeah.
But it meant that my whole family, we also became political and we became engaged. And from that young age, I've had amazing opportunities because of the amazing opportunities my mom has had, and I've seen a lot, and I've seen to what responsibility political figures have, but also what they need to bring to the community and to make it better. In terms of who I am, I mean, I'm I think pretty normal in most cases.
Okay.
I have a long-term partner of 3 years.
Okay.
We have a cat.
Okay.
I'm very, very fortunate. I've always had a very, very loving family.
Okay.
But part of the core of why I'm doing this as well was that I was taught from the beginning that my community provided for me.
Okay.
And whether that was through my education, through healthcare, all of those public services, that we come together as a community to provide for each other. And that being part of that community is also, there's a responsibility that I have to give back.
Okay.
And I have to make sure that those community services are strong and that they are there for other people in a positive way that they were there for me. And so I mean, after university, when I was done university, I didn't really know what I was going to do.
Okay.
I think a lot of students have that,
I
right?
know.
There's this sort of, what will I do with the rest of my life? And I'd been working on campaigns, political campaigns for so long.
Yeah.
I tried to work in the private sector, but it wasn't that fit for me.
Okay. Okay.
And so I had applied to work for other members of parliament.
Okay.
And eventually I was able to get a job with one, and that led to a long path of working for members of parliament, doing that work of providing those services, of providing that advocacy to people who may need just a little bit of help or who may need a lot, but being able to do that, and that was so rewarding to me. And so I saw it firsthand from my mom, but I also saw it with the work I was doing with other members of parliament, and that's why I'm running now, because I know what's necessary, and I know what's needed, and I know that I want to do it.
Awesome, awesome. You must have seen it already, you know, that thrill, that energy, that, you know, it's contagious energy coming out of her, wanting to do something, wanting to probably, you know, a lot. And I'm sure you have that lot of experience working with other political people and your mom to bringing in what is actually there. So let me ask you this. So for now, so you have worked in different fields, different people, and in your personal side of it. What you can call an accomplishment for the people of London you have done?
I think overall it's I've actually had amazing opportunities to work on some incredible files, and files like Indigenous Affairs, Justice, Seniors, and the last role that I was able to play was an assistant to our critic for international trade. Yes, Tracy Ramsey. And so I saw directly the impacts within southwestern Ontario, but London as well, of those NAFTA trade talks and the steel and aluminum tariffs put in place by Donald Trump.
Those are big projects.
They were huge, and they certainly expand to all of Canada. But certainly here in southwestern Ontario, with that manufacturing sector here, I was able to work with Irene as part of my job to reach out to some of the industries in London and say, I know that these are impacting you. Please let us know how. Talk to us about them. We can share this with the committee that my former boss Tracy Ramsey worked on, and we can bring your voice into this discussion because the government needs to hear it. So that was one of the major things I did, looking into the future of what I want to do, and sort of catapulting from what Irene has done. There are a lot of key initiatives that I can think of, but one of the main ones, it centers around the poverty issue and housing issue and these systemic issues that London is now facing. And so Irene several years ago had brought forward a motion for postal banking. Unfortunately it was not passed in the House of Commons, and we need to try again. And postal banking, it brings in banking services that the post office can provide. They used to provide quite similar services
back in the days,
but they are low interest. They are accessible to communities like ours. And actually, even in just this neighborhood, there was a bank, and they closed down, one of the major banks, and they felt that they didn't have enough money coming out of this section, and so they shut down. And so community members across this neighborhood, they were left without that service. But what happens is payday loan lenders, they come in, and they come in with 400% interest. Right? And that takes advantage of a community that needs that service. So when we want to put in postal banking, it's to provide in underserviced areas, but areas that are already serviced by Canada Post in these ways of postal banking, so that people have that access. I mean, that's one thing, and I think that's a major thing. Also,
basically using the same infrastructure, adding on service, so there is no cost and benefit and thing part of it. You utilize the same people, the same infrastructure, and provide the much needed service what people are looking for.
Exactly. Yeah. So there are ideas like that I think that I can bring forward and continue to work on, that I've worked on in the past and can work on now in the future.
Well, Lindsay, I have figured out you were in politics, you involved throughout your life, you actually know things, what people needed it, and I already can see the passion. But for our people in the audience, what is the real passion behind it? What is one thing that you want to change or bring in additional thing for the people of London here? Or Canada in general?
I do have a bunch of ideas, and it's hard to just narrow it down to one. But I think too, again, we come into the idea of poverty. We know there are so many studies, and there is so much information about the fact that poverty costs us more. Costs our economy more. It hurts people more. But if we can eradicate it, if we can get rid of it, if we can eliminate that systemic underlying poverty that exists, that there's no limit to what people can do, what our community can do, and we save money while we do it. So part of our platform is to study and bring a pilot project for a national basic income. The province of Ontario had started it.
The Ontario Basic Program has started. It ran about 2 years or so, I believe.
I think for a little bit, but
Certain
unfortunately, when the Conservatives came in, they canceled it before it was done. They canceled it before any of the findings could be
and everything,
exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So what I would really like to do is sink my teeth into that. It requires a lot of study. It requires a lot of working with provinces to see what is needed and where we can go with it. But it's ultimately an entire reformation of our welfare system in state, and it's about saying to people, it's going to be okay. You'll have this basic income. What will you do with that? And a lot of people, there's studies all over the world where people will go back to school. They won't take 3 or 4 part-time jobs or stress as much about it, or they'll be able to find work that they love, work in their field. If you can't work, maybe you can volunteer your time. And it's also pairing that with a national housing strategy, which New Democrats are putting forward, a full strategy, so that people also, they have a safe and affordable place to call home. I couldn't imagine not having a home to go to. You can't do anything. You only focus on pure and basic survival and that base, and you think of nothing else, and the anxiety and that stress. So if you eliminate these things, what does that do for people? And I would really like to get into that, to study that, to have the House of Commons study it through committee and see where that could go.
Wow. So basically what I'm reading, you actually, in your constituency, because the London Fanshawe, you have seen the people could benefit from this, improve from the poverty part of it.
Yes.
They become better people, better citizen, better resident of London City, and integrate into a better economy.
I think so.
All that.
But there are so many pieces to that too, right? And so we're talking about the healthcare. Healthcare is one of these major public systems and that we need. And so the expansion of that healthcare, the provision of prescription drugs for everyone universally, looking at significant funding into mental health care. London used to have a hospital just down on Highbury, and they closed that many years ago. And the community knew that would cause problems. And sure enough, here we are, decades later, in crisis.
Yeah.
We have mental health crisis, we have a housing crisis, we have a poverty crisis. London Fanshawe is the hardest hit because of that lack of services. So we really want to focus on that, and we really want to make things a lot more fair and a lot more balanced, ensuring that people who have more pay their fair share, where other parties have not enforced that. They have not. They have not created that fairness, and reforming our taxation system as well to ensure that there is that fairness, because the middle class can't hold that anymore, and it's up to those who earn a lot more to carry on their responsibility as being part of this community, and helping us to ensure that we have those public services that help everybody.
Fantastic. So what we're looking from the passion perspective, you are deeply connected with the people, and I get you are seeing this when you door knock and you're meeting people. Are you seeing these responses, or these are the people that they are looking into that, and this is what they are looking for? People
are really, they're terrified, I think.
Oh.
People, they don't know what to do anymore, and it's getting harder and harder for them to get by. They feel that squeeze. And nothing, unfortunately, with a lot of promises of something better, that hasn't been delivered. And they're really frustrated by that as well. And some
Every
people,
other person comes in and promises and didn't deliver, or the government changed and their policies.
Yes, and so I say, well, the last 152 years, you've gone from option A to option B, and then back to option A, and then back to option B.
Yeah.
But we're option C, and we need that chance. We have a very different vision. We have a very different idea of that fairness and of that balance. And I can quote you study after study after study that proves it, but it requires that political will and that political courage to make it happen, to make it real. So I talk to people on the doorstep about pharmacare, about that prescription coverage. A lot of seniors are desperate for that. In fact, when I was working with Tracy Ramsey, we had a woman who would frequently skip her medicines because she couldn't afford it, and she would end up in the emergency room. So you can provide people with a $5 pill, or they end up in the emergency room for $1,500 a day.
Yeah.
There are things that make sense that we need to do that will save money, but that will also save people.
Yeah.
Right? So I know that people understand that. I mean, certainly people in London too, they see the homelessness crisis, they see the housing crisis. They know that housing prices in their neighborhood have risen 70% in the last decade. They feel that. They know that their grocery bills and their hydro bills and all of those things are going up, but their wages aren't. Their wages are not keeping up with that. So we need to ensure that there are these affordability mechanisms in place through public services, so that if you need care, if you need to put your parents into long-term care, that you're not so scared because you can't afford it. And that's where people are at. So that's what I want to really get at. In a significant way.
Folks, you already have seen. I mean, she got through each and aspect of it, but distinctly she's looking to raise up the people from the poverty line to that level and bring it into the mainstream and become the part of the society where they can be productive, not to themselves, change mental health, but also to the society. So keep watching London Living with Rizwan. We'll be right back after a short break, and we'll continue with Lindsay Mathyssen for London Fanshawe. London Living with Rizwan Rashid. We are sitting with Lindsay Mathyssen, and Lindsay is talking about her political bid and her passion behind it. She actually walked us through what are the different people are facing difficulties in her area, and how she's, willing and already ready to take on these challenges, to take on.
Let me at him.
Right. So I wanted to move that now that we were talking about all the poverty. Do you find something that stuck out to you, that somebody said to you, somebody asked you, and you're like, wow, I need to figure this out for them?
Yes, and it was very interesting. So, I mean, I've seen firsthand the help that members of parliament can provide, and I know the services that we offer. I also know, having seen it, unfortunately, if an MP isn't as surface focused, the harm that can cause as well. And I never want the people of London Fanshawe to ever have to feel that.
Wow.
So I was.
She's committing right now. Okay.
We'll do whatever I can, whatever's in my power, for sure. And I have an amazing team behind me. Experienced people that I rely upon too, because we're not on our own in this. That this is about the community, and it's for the community, but it's also with the community, right? But there was a woman, and we were canvassing. I was actually with my mother.
Okay.
And she ran out from her house, and she said, "I will vote for you. I will take your sign, whatever you need, because your mother's office literally saved my life."
Wow.
So she had been having problems with Canada Revenue Agency. And they had been trying to work through the system, and unfortunately hitting walls. And sometimes these systems they get a bit complicated. It's unfortunate, and people get really frustrated, but they don't know all the ways around. And the members of Parliament's office are given contacts within the government to help navigate these things. But we also know what's needed and how to do that. So unfortunately, she had thought of her member of parliament as a last resource, and it was a friend of hers who said, you know what, my cousin had received help from Irene. Why don't you go to talk to Irene?
Okay.
And she did, and within 2 days, they had everything solved. She was about to lose her house because she hadn't made payments. They had put, she was dealing with overwhelming interest and all of these things, and it had caused her so much stress and so much anxiety for so long, and then it was fixed. And I'm not saying that that is every case. However, I hear that on the doorstep constantly. I went to your mom's office for help. I went to my cousin got help. My sister told me that you helped her. So for me, that's the base.
Wow.
That's it. That's where we need to be. And we may not always have all the exact solutions, because I've also heard from people where we can help them in smaller ways or in these larger ways. But we're there to help, and it's the having an office that is visible and public, and having a member of parliament that is in all of those communities and reaching out all the time and participating, and that they know is there, that will help them, that will respect them, no matter who they are, no matter where they're from, no matter what their situation. If we can help you in some way, then we will do our very best to do that. And part of the job too, I know, is going with all the members of parliament that I've been with, but also Irene, to so many events. And I met you at one of those events, and I'm always so overwhelmed and humbled by the warmth and the excitement and how people they have all these special events. And they're so happy that you're there to celebrate with them in these moments, and that's an amazing job to me, that you get to participate in all these things in our community and have it all come together in your office, and to represent such a dynamic group of communities and people.
Yeah. I have, the two comments is I can actually attest to you and Irene, both of them participated in most of our activities whenever we have invited you over there. Yeah. And I believe not only on this part of South Asian community, but I have seen you everywhere else involved. I can attest to that. The other part is that when you were discussing about the CRA case, that really nailed the point, folks. In CRA, maybe you are just a number, but when your representative talks about you, you are the real person, and that connects the dot. The weakest link becomes the strongest one.
Well put, yeah.
Right? So that's how it works. So that's why we have to choose people who is going to be connected with you, the people who will be accessible to you. And you made the real good point that when your representative have the office right there and accessible, then people will get things done.
Yes.
Now, my tough question would be, now Irene has a big legacy. How are you going to replace that?
I know. It's a constant.
You're going to win it because of Irene?
She has tiny feet but giant shoes to fill.
Yes.
Absolutely. And I know that she is a force unto herself. She's been an amazing role model.
Yeah.
I've had remarkable people around me, but I know that she will always support me. I can always go to her for advice if necessary. But I also, that work ethic and going with her to all those events, knowing that how important those events are, knowing how important those people are and the community is, and the services that we provide. I can't see doing anything else. And the closer that I get to election day, the more excited I get.
Yes.
And I know that it's a lot of work. It's not easy. Not every day is easy. Not everyone agrees with you.
That's right.
There's conflict sometimes, and that's part of it. But the reward at the end, to be able to help that woman who almost lost her house.
Yeah.
and for her to run across the street just to hug you and cry and be there.
It's that gratification moment is like no one else.
Yeah.
I mean, you cannot replace with anything else. I believe that. So NDP, how NDP is supporting you? How do you think that the whole campaign is going?
Well, it's. I think we're more than halfway done now. I hope. Because I said I'm so excited to be able to do this job. It's been incredible, and I've been very, very fortunate. I've worked with a lot of these folks on the campaign so far.
Okay.
We're like a family.
Okay.
Some people I've known since I was 11, and they're still on our campaign. Yeah. So I've grown up with a lot of the people, but there's also been so many new people coming in, and that's been wonderful. Centrally, we receive supports all the time. We have people who make sure that we have what we need, our signs, our literature. We do a lot of that ourselves, but we also have help from them. And then, of course, the leader, Jagmeet, he was here last April.
Okay, yeah.
He was talking about housing, actually, affordable housing in London. He came back, and it so happened that the election was called the day he was here. And so we launched the campaign from London, Ontario, and he was so proud to do that. And he gave me a call about a week later saying, that was amazing, the event was amazing, and he was so happy. So we're hoping that he comes back, and we can do some more outreach with him, because when people meet him, they understand how good a leader and good a person and a smart guy he is, and it really transcends. So we've received a lot of support that way as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't want to, ask this what do you call it, right or wrong question, but do you approve or do you agree with the Justin Trudeau's new pictures came out?
I think that those images have hurt some people.
Yeah.
And everybody has to judge for themselves how it affects them. Maybe it doesn't affect them.
Yeah.
But for myself, and I know that he's done it several times. The incident, one of the incidents was at a black tie affair where nobody was dressed up, and only he was.
Okay.
Why did he do that? It was, but it's also, it seems to be this consistent mocking.
Okay.
And people may believe that it was a long time ago, but I can remember only maybe 6 months ago, he was at a fundraiser, and there were Indigenous people at that fundraiser, and they were asking him about the poisoned water in their community, in Grassy Narrows. And they were terrified because people around them were dying, and they've been dying for decades, and no government has done anything about it. And he told them, in one instance, that there was this new relationship, and that it was based on reconciliation, and then he turned around at this fundraiser and mocked them and said, "Thanks for your donation," and sloughed them off. And so I worry that there's a pattern there. And so for me, I don't want a prime minister who doesn't understand the struggles that people deal with constantly, whether it's the community you're from, or the religion, or whatever background. Canada's for everyone, and it's to respect everyone. So that concerns me. But again, this is for people to judge on their own. And what I want them to know is that for me, that utmost respect and that support needs to be there for what they need. So I want to be that kind of leader that they know that they can trust to do that and provide that.
Okay, good. Lindsay, we are about to end of session. I want you to, provide a message that to our audience, any message you wanted to provide to our audience, which will go through all the South Asian community, in specifically and Canada in general.
Oh my goodness. Well, Like I said before, I'm so excited to start this new job, and to really affect change for people in London Fanshawe, but across Canada. I've been working, doing this role for a long time, but the work is so important to me, and I want to only take it on more and make it my own, and make it your own, and make sure that we are a community that comes together and looks after each other and that cares for each other. And I've been so blessed with the South Asian community here in London, have been so supportive, and so warm, and so kind and giving. And I want to be able to provide that back, and for everyone to know that it has meant the world to me, and that we could continue in that really sharing and good relationship together.
Awesome, awesome. Folks, this is Lindsay Mathyssen from London Fanshawe. On October 21st, I would like you to go out and vote for the things what you have heard, the things you believe in, and things what you really want to see the change. It is not, nothing will happen if you don't vote. Vote is important. October 21st. From the show London Living with Rizwan Rashid, I'm going to ask for permission for Lindsay for that, and ask thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And providing us time, because I know it's very important time right now for her to go out and meet other people. But we also thankful for your views and your opinions and what's your passion behind it, to reach out to the people so they can see it. If they haven't met you, they can see you from this show. Thank you again, and have a good night.